On one of the loneliest mornings of winter, when the streets were still dark and the air cut through coats like a blade, Daniel Brooks unlocked the door of the small bakery where he worked before sunrise. Life hadn't been kind to him lately. He was a widower, raising his 7-year-old son Noah on a modest income, surviving day by day with quiet determination. As he stepped inside, he noticed someone sitting on the bench outside the bakery, a young woman wrapped in a thin jacket, her shoes soaked, her face pale from the cold. She looked exhausted, like someone who hadn't slept or eaten properly in days. Most people would have walked past. Daniel almost did. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the way she held her hands together, trying to steal warmth from nothing. Or maybe it was the memory of his own worst nights, when grief and hunger had shared the same space in his chest. Without saying much, Daniel unlocked the door again and returned with a cup of hot tea and a fresh roll. Nothing fancy, just what he could spare. The woman hesitated, then accepted it with shaking hands. "My name is Maya," she said quietly, her voice barely louder than the wind. "Thank you." That was all. From that morning on, Maya appeared outside the bakery almost every day at the same time. She never asked for help. She never explained her story. Daniel never pushed. He simply brought her something warm and made sure she left a little stronger than she arrived. Over time, Daniel noticed things. How Maya flinched when someone raised their voice. How she avoided crowds. How some days her eyes looked heavier, like she was carrying invisible weight. And yet, she always thanked him as if kindness was something rare and undeserved. One morning, after weeks of silence, Maya whispered, "I didn't think people helped without wanting something back." Daniel smiled gently. Sometimes people help because they remember what it felt like to need it. Then, suddenly, Maya disappeared. Days passed, then weeks. Daniel worried. He checked the bench every morning, feeling a strange emptiness he hadn't expected. He hoped she was safe. He feared she wasn't. 3 weeks later, the bakery door opened in the middle of the morning rush. The room fell quiet as 2 well-dressed men entered, followed by a woman who looked familiar, yet completely transformed. It was Maya. She was clean, confident, and standing taller than before. Tears filled her eyes when she saw Daniel. The men introduced themselves as legal representatives. They explained that Maya had been missing after escaping a controlling, abusive partner who had isolated her from her family and resources. Her parents had searched everywhere. She had survived by hiding, afraid to trust anyone, until a stranger gave her tea and bread without asking questions. Maya stepped forward and said, "You reminded me I mattered. You didn't save me with money. You saved me with humanity." Her family insisted on helping Daniel, not as charity, but as gratitude. Support for Noah's education, relief from debts, stability Daniel had never known. Daniel learned something powerful that day. Kindness doesn't need permission, and sometimes the smallest act can quietly change 2 lives forever. If this story moved you, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. And tell us in the comments, what would you have done in Daniel's place?